When you think about what has essentially kept Canada sustainable in terms of its cannabis sector, it has been the fact that we've been able to export. And so we're very fortunate that we have that opportunity, that we produce amazing flower, and then we have countries all over the world who recognize that. Now, there's a lot of these high standards around that, and so our main goal is always to produce the highest quality flower, and that's where we will begin our panel. But I'd first like to do a quick introduction of our panelists, and then we'll jump around and have them all give their input around how we produce the highest quality flower and how we make sure that we can meet the standards of the export markets. So we have Joe Edwards from Deconics, Chris Newell from Agmedica, George Carey from Rat Source, Mike Rice from Bloomhouse, and Elle Behrens from VIST Labs. So Mike, hey, I'm going to get you to kick it off. When we think of it, we want to produce the highest quality flower. There's always that saying, garbage in, garbage out. I know that these remediation tools can turn garbage into gold.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how we make sure we don't have garbage going in.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ev. Good morning, everyone. For many of us cannabis producers, exporting high-quality cannabis to the German market has become more than just an opportunity. It has become a lifeline. In some cases, and as opportunities work to avoid regulatory and documentation burdens of irradiation, two strategies have really come to the forefront. Strengthening hygienic cultivation and post-harvest controls, and exporting non-irradiated microbial remediation, which brings us to one of the most underestimated environments in the entire production chain, the drying room. If you've ever stepped into a drying room and instantly known whether the crop was going to be a brilliant success or whether you should quietly start drafting a deviation report, you understand its power. It's a moment of truth you can literally breathe in. We dedicate substantial resources to cultivation, extraction, and analytics, high-profile elements of the cannabis production. And yet, it is the drying room, by comparison, often receives less attention and ultimately ensures that all investment delivered consistent, high-quality cannabis. Under EU GMP Annex 1 and GACP, the drying room plays a central role in the contamination control strategy. Positive pressure cascades 5 to 15 pascals, shield the room from external intrusions. Clean room grade construction eliminates microbial harborage points. And the environment controlled maintains a critical parameters. These are the established 60-60 method, the 10 to 30 air exchanges per hour. These parameters are not arbitrary. These are foundations for preserving terpenes, protecting cannabinoids, and preventing microbial growth long before it becomes an appliance issue. As for the HVAC system, which carries the weight of the entire harvest, especially in the first 48 to 72 hours, when plants release enough moisture to make you question basic physics. If HVAC systems had emotions, this would be the moment they would stare into the void and reconsider their life choices. Environmental monitoring and airflow studies, these prove that the room not just performs that day, but every day. Because the drying room isn't just a space, it's a controlled step. It's a guardian of consistency, a gatekeeper of safety, an unglamorous but essential part in the pharmaceutical grade cannabis production. When we manage the dry room correctly, we protect compliance, we protect consistency, and ultimately we protect the cannabis experience. Because the drying room helps determine the story the plant will tell. Whether it's going to be poetry or it's going to be a crime scene documentary. And remember, the drying room may not roar like the grow or have the evidence of extraction, but one clogged drain from a dehumidifier can ruin your entire harvest. An unplanned science experiment can exist. So let's give the drying room the respect it deserves in the entire production method. Thank you.
That's perfect, Mike. It's so true, right? on the post-harvest side, sometimes we love to blame the grower, and then the grower's trying to blame the post-harvest side. So let's just say that maybe something went wrong. Hey, Joe, do you want to kick us off and tell us how we can fix what went wrong?
Absolutely. So, and I think there's really two approaches here. There's fixing what went wrong, and there's also preserving what went wrong. So when we look at the drying room, the cured room, the entire post-harvest process chain, what we're looking at is an interlinking system that creates product stability. That product stability brings us all the way from that harvest event to our retail sale and distribution levels. In order to preserve that, we have numerous processes in place, be they from dry room metrics, curation variables, and post-harvest process supply chain handling practices. But more than that, what we want to do is we want to guarantee the validity of that product, the validity of that product on the market, be it German, Australian, UK, or other. And from that, we have sterility and stability. From sterility, we have active water content, we have moisture content, and we have a lack of microbial contamination or the ability for it to be produced thereof. But we also have an instability, our VOC metrics, terpenes, flavonoids, cannabinoids, and the preservation thereof. Now, while we can fix microbial instability, while we can fix water instability, we can fix moisture instability, what we can't do is manipulate those VOC variables that are already in place. Those chemical reactions, those biosynthesis reactions that are already part and parcel to our process have begun. They're under development, they're in practice. We can foster them or we can stifle them, but there's no fixing them at that point. With that in mind, as we go through clean in place procedures, we have what we have in support, George, VIST as well, that what we start really looking at is how can we deliver that integrity of product throughout. And then I'll go ahead and kick it on down the line.
Great. I'll turn it over to you, Elle. Do you want to follow up a little bit on that? And Joe, I am going to get back to speaking a little bit specifically about Diconics and perhaps the methodology that you're using to maintain that as well.
Happy to. So.
Oh, okay, sure.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump back to you. You just in case you forgot what it does, I'll give you time to think about it, and then I'll let.
I think I remember.
You remember, but we'll let Elle jump in and take over.
Sure. So, hi everybody. Thank you for having me on this panel, and I give credit to everybody that showed up today. I'm sure we all had a lot of fun last night, and it wasn't easy getting up this morning. So, my name is Elle Behrens. I'm with VIST Labs, and our flagship technology is cryo-pasteurization. We're based in Chicago, and as many of you heard that we just won a major award at Cannabis Hero Show for Technology of the Year. Very proud. Thank you very much for supporting us. And what I want to focus on today is a couple of points. So I assume that majority of people in the audience today are either looking to send their product to Germany or UK or Australia, or our current manufacturers or LPs that already do it and want to stay on top of the current trends. So with that in mind, where do you start? Number one, you have to know your European pharmacopoeia. So there are 3 chapters of European pharmacopoeia that regulate the microbial compliance of cannabis flower. So Germany specifically, so they want the flower to comply with Chapter 518C of European Pharmacopoeia, which is 150,000 CFU per gram for yeast and mold, and 500,000 CFU per gram for aerobic bacteria. So, and when it comes for you to choose your decontamination technology, one thing that I want you to remember is 6-log kill. That is the golden standard of microbial decontamination in the pharmaceutical world. So why is 6-log kill important? What it means is, if you achieve 6-log reduction, you kill 99.9999% of microbial bioburden. if you can accomplish that type of sterility, then you're safe to ship to Germany, to UK, to Australia. And when I talk to my German counterparts and colleagues in the industry, so unfortunately it's still the case today that some batches that arrive from Canada to Germany, they fail on arrival, so they're already out of spec. So what that means is, and think about it this way. So no matter how great your decontamination technology is, if you leave one colony behind, which is typical, you often, one colony does get left behind, or a spore. So over time, it will grow exponentially. And when your product arrives to the final destination, you lose the batch. So just think about it when you choose your technology. Number one thing is 6-log kill. Another question I want you to ask is validation of that 6-log kill. So I can give you an example. When VIST validates its process, we do it from our own strain bank. So we always use the worst case scenario. Basically, we grow the strains, we amplify the bioburden to at least 8 to 9 log, run it through our machine, and we calculate the log reduction. So to add to that, we use wild cannabis strains because we believe that those are more resistant, and we make sure they sporulate. We make sure for yeast and mold we use spores, not just live colonies. So Pseudomonas, BTGN, mix it all together, so spray onto sterilized flour, run it through the product, and calculate starting log versus the final product log. So that is our process for validating 6-log kill. And of course, another question is EU GMP, right? So is your process EU GMP compliant? And of course, in today's world, it's a minimum. Like, everybody's thinking, okay, EU GMP, but to send your product to Germany, it's a minimum. It's just a base requirement. So EU GMP is very important. And of course, you have to see if does the technology that you're looking for, does it carry additional regulatory burden? And of course, the big elephant in the room here is MRAD FAO. So MRAD FAO, MRAD V, MRAD 5, it depends who says it. It's the same thing, right? So it's a irradiation directive. So that takes up to 6 months to get, requires additional stability studies. So for that particular reason, a lot of customers come to us for cryopasterization. And if anybody's interested, I'll be happy to answer more questions. Just reach out to me, and we'll talk more.
Perfect. I think and we never rehearse anything here, obviously, because as I've mentioned many times, I'm a slack-ass moderator. I think you've really set up the discussion I want to bring George in. We hear about the German market and the burden of bringing in irradiated flour into Germany. Rad source is X-ray, not something it's something that has to go through that MRAD 5. Do you want to share a little bit about maybe the regulatory burden around this?
Yeah, sure. So just so that people know, the irradiated flour is not bad. All right? The reason why flour is irradiated and has been irradiated for 30 years is because it works, and it works well. And it works for not only cannabis, but also for prescription drugs, also for much of the food that you eat, your dog treats. So it's the perception that gets out in the market that, there's lingering radiation. There's not. It's light. It's photons that go through it that destroys the DNA of the microbial, so they can no longer reproduce. So irradiation is achieved by anything that's on the electromagnetic spectrum. So everything from infrared to radio waves, RF, visible light, UV, X-rays, and gamma. So gamma's just been the standard for the last 20 years, because up to 8 years ago, 9 years ago, there wasn't really an alternative for that type of technology that penetrates the flour. Then comes along RadSource. We developed an X-ray technology. We actually have a patented X-ray tube that it's a smaller wavelength than regular X-ray, and it penetrates more, and it's a little bit more powerful. It's got more photons in its beam, and they pass right through the bigger molecules like the terpenes and the cannabinoids, and they actually hit the microbials. And now we have GMP studies and GMP papers from a GMP lab in Europe called Bright Labs, a one-year study of our flour that shows that we're 5.1.4 and 5.1.8 compliant. So with that, we were able to go to the German government and lobby them, and we have a very, very good German attorney that for 2 years has been lobbying the German government, and they came back and they said, hey, look, the AMRAD V process is cumbersome, and it's a profit center for the German government, and we're not going to do that anymore. So with our technology now, we got the process changed so that once a strain is registered once, now there's a CESP process where it's online instead of a paper that you have to fill out. It's typically a 6 to 8 week turnaround, and if that strain is registered once by either the cultivar, the grower, the importer, or the wholesaler, it doesn't have to be registered again. Before it was like every time it changed or something you had to go back. No, it's one time. So now what the German government has done is they've ensured that the market's getting good quality product and good quality product that doesn't impact the terpenes and cannabinoids, and that is in line with the European pharmacopoeia. So,
and so you don't have to do a stability study on each strain. It's just registering essentially.
It's just registered. So there's some paperwork that goes along with it, but we can help with that. But I'm telling you right now, I've got more studies than anybody can shake a stick at. So and I've got customers in the audience as well as customers that we can refer people to. But the stability. We actually have a 2-year shelf life stability study, and they just finished a 3-year shelf life one.
Is this like a white paper? Or?
Yeah. And then we got another white paper coming out.
I'm interested in the terpene content. Mm-hmm. Was that maintained for the 2 years?
Yes.
Wow, that's something I early on.
As long as it's sealed print. Right?
Yes, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's the gold standard, and there's a reason why, like I said, it's a gold standard, is because it works. And there's other technologies. I'm not slighting them. Because you always have different ways of attacking a problem. But when I saw the topic of the panel, I was like, oh God, what's wrong with the radiation?
I can't even remember, and I picked the title. I can't remember what I wrote.
It was basically, George, why are you even coming to the show? But, no, it's good, and what I'll point out is, a lot of customers that use the technology, they want a competitive advantage over their competitors. So there's one customer of mine that has gone public with their use of my machine, and he's sitting right there. So he's from Belushi Farms. So if you have any questions about the use of that machine, talk to our friend here.
Okay, great. Now, so we've talked a little bit about cryopasteurization. I don't know the details we got into that. George has shared a little bit about the X-ray technology. Joe, I'm going to jump in, and then I'll jump to you, Chris, to share a little bit more about an actual grower experience or an LP experience around using one of these technologies. Joe, do you want to share a little bit about the Deconics technology?
Absolutely, happy to. And as George mentioned, there's several ways to attack any given problem, be it irradiation, be it cryopasteurization, or be it through Deconics method, which is microburst, UVC, and a gaseous O3 application working in conjunction. All of these processes are designed twofold. One, to minimize impact or have no impact on any VOC compound, and two, to reach a non-detect sterility point for product. While we go about it in what we feel to be the least invasive way possible, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're the best solution for every given operation. Each individual operation has its own unique requirements, its own unique throughput metrics, and its own unique operational challenges and hurdles. As was mentioned, validating your technology, ensuring that you have a log 6 reduction, denoting your unique cultivars, your unique process change, and the total lack of impact of a decontamination or sterilization service is paramount, as each individual cultivar, as each individual client, potentially for everyone up here on this dais, looks to validate those technologies. Where we're all able to solve the problem, it's who can solve it best for you. And we all encourage you to look through those technologies, to do your research, to do your homework, and we're happy to help assist you with that, to find that best solution to move forward for your unique operation, your unique needs.
Perfect. I may, if I have time, I'll have everyone go back and share a little bit about, how easy is your technology in terms of plug and play. Do you need to have a PhD, or can I, even though I have one, could I run it? Let's go to Chris. As a license holder, you've adopted the VIST technology. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Al. We actually had VIST, and then we got Radzer as well for our domestic business. But we're a license holder at an LP. We're shipping internationally, but also with AgMedica, we're tolling a lot of GSMP material to international markets. So Mike's ode to the dry room really resonated with me because it's a part of our validation process for our customers that we're bringing on. A lot of growers come to us and say, how do I access the international market? And you're right, it all starts with the dry room, right? From the European perspective, the dry room is effectively the first control point, and GMP really starts when you're determining the final state of the product, right? As a medicine, you're basically looking for what are the control points when you're looking to hit your LOD, your potencies, your microbial levels. So we acquired AgMedica at the end of 2024. It was my job to integrate that business, and one of the risks that I saw was around microbes, right? When we're growing our own product, we have product that fails the 5.1.8C, suddenly that product needs to be reallocated, right? And for all the growers in the audience, there's nothing worse than spending 6 months growing product, having an intended home for it, and then scrambling to try and make a sale, potentially at a discount to move that product after the fact. So we brought in the VIST equipment and trialed it ourselves. We're really big on testing efficacy, and it worked really well. It was an excellent solution for us, and it's become a solution that we've extended to the growers that we're working with in Canada, taking their products internationally. We just actually got our second unit, expanding our capacity, and so we've made it a part of our process to offer growers an alternative for when they're receiving micro that we do in our site when we receive the product ultimately fails, or just as a preventative step to ensure that it mitigates the risk. Because for anyone who's experienced out of specs internationally, there's nothing worse than having a solution for your product, right? Like sometimes you're spending money to move it, to get it treated, then having to sell it in another country, and by the time you expend all those resources to try and get it done, it didn't even make sense to make that initial sale. So we look at mitigating the risk up front through our controlled process, and we found that our customers really are looking to us now and looking for our our suppliers to adopt that as kind of a standardized part of the supply chain, so that they don't have to worry about any of the risks. And one thing I will note that we're doing, working with some of the German customers, is because of the relationships between the labs, we're actually working with them to put defensive packages together where their labs and regulatory authority will allow them to accept our micro results for the final release. So right now, for anyone who doesn't know, they're actually retesting everything in Germany. So that's part of the risk, is that you get a clean micro here, but product ships, takes 60 days, maybe something happens over there. If it's out of spec, it's out of spec. But what we're working towards is trying to have a defensible package where the micro reduction that we're doing on site and the validation and stability that we're able to show and support with that is now the defensibility the German customers need to rely on our COA for release and effectively eliminate that risk.
That's great. That's amazing. I'm going to put you on the spot here, but does your sensory evaluation team, can they taste or see the difference, grind the difference between the rad source and the VIST? Are they similar products?
So part of our evaluation process for new technologies is we kind of do blind trials. Like we've got, like I said, our sensory team, pretty robust R&D with our R&D license. We did E-beam, rad source, and VIST kind of side by side, and there wasn't a notable difference in any one. All treatment has some impact, right, for any of the growers who are really into the details of their flower. But from a general consumer standpoint, nothing to degrade the product where it would become unappealing or be notably different. It's more for the trained eye.
Great, great. Maybe you can answer best. We'll kickstart it with the VIST comment. I just wondering in terms of the ease of operation and perhaps the throughput as well as the number of people involved in that process. Is that a fair question?
Yeah, totally fair. I think it all depends on how you operate. We're trying to be fairly efficient, but continuous improvement is kind of a core tenet of our business. The shift structure that we started with was just kind of a single shift, 7 to 3:30, general break for the staff, and I think we were running it pretty particular in terms of like our additional processes. So I think the rated capacity of the equipment, we're likely under that, but that's more about what we're doing in the room. We were originally running with 2 individuals operating the one machine because of the downstream processes that we have, but we since have adjusted to 2 shifts in total for about 18 hours a day, and then with the addition of the second machine, we've added a 3rd person. So we're 2 machines, 3 people in the room, and we've got our throughput capacity up to about 3.5 tons a month right now.
Wow, that's great. I'm going to turn it over to the audience if they have any more specific questions, but I also want to allow the panelists. So if you have a question, come on up to the mic and ask the question. George or Elle, Joe, do you have anything else you want to add? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there is a mic. Oh, does somebody have a question? Yeah. Yeah.
Question for Chris, follow-up question. So I know you provide services for other LPs, and I was wondering, are you to full capacity right now, or you still accept new customers?
Thanks, Elle. No, yeah. We're still taking on new customers. I mean, we look at ourselves as kind of being like a 2-sided marketplace for cannabis. Like, we've got a bunch of great Canadian cultivators that we know and have relationships with and work with on the domestic side, that are ultimately trying to find a path. So if anybody is looking, I'm happy to meet with anyone and talk to them, to pair them with kind of our customers, right? We've taken, I'd say historically it was a lot of customers that were selecting suppliers and kind of had like one-on-one relationships, but we're trying to offer a platform where we can basically bring the customers and suppliers together. And so if you've got product you're looking to move, we're happy to have a discussion about that, maybe into Germany or UK.
Is that all GACP product or?
GACP is the requirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So GACP and then IMC GAP if you're looking to go to Israel. So it really depends on kind of your licensing, ultimately the quality onboarding. And I guess I'll make a comment that from my perspective as an operator, quality and supply chain are kind of what international is all about, right? You need strong quality practices. From our perspective, everything hinges on the quality, right? From the onboarding and the initial licensing right through to the validation of your dry room and processes, because speaking specifically to the German market, GACP and EU GMP are basically going together one-to-one, and when customers are coming to us, they're auditing us on our processes, but they also have their authority that's reliant on them to basically be the authority, so to speak, on what is and isn't accepted. And so it starts with strong quality practices, and then we work together with our suppliers to make sure that we're integrated into their quality system.
Great. Yeah, George.
Yeah, so that brought up a good point with the GMP, because the GMP process is very important internationally. So part of the IQ and the OQ is done by the manufacturer, and then the PQ is done by the grower themselves, or the person using the equipment. So I know we've been through that. I think that this is, I don't know if you guys, but the GMP process is important. But I think the real key thing for you is that the cleaner you have that flower prior to it leaving your facility, meaning getting it to zero, as close to zero as possible, the less chance you have of microbial growth growing back once you ship it out, and you run into the problems like Chris was saying, is trying to find a retested room for it. So even in Colorado, where they have secret shoppers, and some of the other states where they have secret shoppers, they'll test it, and it'll be 20,000 CFU, or if the limit's 50,000, they'll say, oh, it's 20,000 running the limit, and then they'll go put it on the shelf, and 8 weeks later they'll go out and pull it, and now it's at 80,000, and then they recall the whole strain. So you know, as a grower, it only makes sense to try to get it as close as zero to possible. So even if your limit is 50,000, don't go at 49,000. Go to zero. Just bring it down. It's going to save you problems in the future.
Well, it's in that quest for accessibility, I think, that a lot of these technologies are born. I know specifically one of the things that we looked at coming from a deep cultivation background, having been an owner and operator before going into the IP and tech development sector, that we very much focused, thank you, George, we very much focused on what can we provide directly to the needs of a cultivator. Knowing that every square foot of space in the cultivation is used twice, if not thrice over, how can we be as non-invasive as bringing new equipment in? How can we minimize the burden on the facility, be it power, be it from other equipment or ancillary supporting equipment, and then from a labor cost, and then be able to implement these technologies regardless of what they may be, at all points in time in that post-harvest process chain, and then be able to provide that not only to GAC producers transitioning to a GMP environment or going through a green wash, or GMP producers across multiple delineated segments of a long product chain that may span all the way from Thailand to Germany.
I think that's, it's definitely a topic that I'm sure that audience members probably want to have a deeper conversation with you. Seeing that there aren't any other questions, I'm going to kind of end the formal part of this conversation and encourage people to come up and have a discussion, a more intimate discussion with our panelists, get a little more details about their offerings and experiences. And Chris is buying a bunch of flour right now too, so come up and see Chris to sell your flour. With that, I'd like to have you join me in thanking Joe, Chris, George, Mike, and Elle for their presentation, and enjoy the last. I want to remind you that there is